And then also, when we talk about integrity, we want you to consider daddy-daughter ball because, sometimes it. Welcome to For the Love of the Game with Coach David Fowler and Tony Evans. We are plotting along. This is our 6th or 7th episode. I've even lost count because we've been so steady and we keep putting them out there. Today we're going to have a little bit more of a controversial, I guess you could say, podcast because we're going to speak about and we're going to have certain parents give their reviews AAU teams that they've experienced. And as we say in the church, as the Lord leads, Coach Fowler and I will go ahead and we'll give 2 or 3 reviews ourselves of things that we've experienced, and we're going to actually say some names. Now, I will say this, for the parents that come on, we want to say ahead of time that for the love of the game, Coach Fowler and myself do not necessarily agree with all the reviews that are going to come on to this program today. This is this parent's review. This is not our review, okay? So Coach Fowler's ready to stand. He's always, ever since I've known David, he's always been a guy who stands 10 toes down on what he believes. So if he gives a review, that's what Coach Fowler believes about that specific situation that he experienced. Tony Harris, he's going to give an honest review over the situation that he's experienced. And then guess what? The parents are going to go and give their honest reviews. But just everything that's said here across this program, I want you to take it on an individual basis. So y'all program coordinators and y'all friends, Coach Fowler and I, we have friends in just about every AAU organization. So even some of our friends, to use the street expression, are going to catch a stray today, okay? But that's not because we had that in mind. We're just being honest. And also, if Coach Fowler and I hear something that's unfair, we might not get into an argument or anything with the parent, but we may say something at the end of the podcast to say, "No, I don't feel like I've not seen that or I've not experienced that." So that's what we're doing today. Just think about this as a Google review. But a lot of times when you see a Google review, you don't know whether it's a bot. You don't know whether it's really a person. You don't know whether I've known some people for Google reviews who go and they tell all their family members to say, my book that I just wrote is the dopest book of all time. And the family member didn't even read the book. So you can't trust all Google reviews that are out here. At least here you got people who are willing to put their face and their name to their words. And that's what we're going to have here. Before we pull in, Coach Fowler, what are your thoughts before we get started?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the love of the game.
So what I was going to say is, rather than looking at it as negative, I would look at it as constructive. We're also going to allow, we're going to invite the directors of these organizations on to answer any questions on a future episode. It's positive or it's constructive. That's the way I would look at it. And I think everybody can learn from the good and the bad. But this was a part of it. And also we mentioned in our first episode, I believe it was our first episode, that you can't necessarily just go based off of what somebody says, because your experience might be different than their experience. So while watching the rest of this episode and hearing what everyone has to say, I believe that you should, also go and find out for yourself and not necessarily put everything into what each of these panelists say.
There you go. Yeah, and think about this. In sports, we expect our kids to take a correction and make an adjustment. So likewise, all of us grown folks, we should be able to get a correction and ask ourselves, is this person just being hateful, or is there some constructive thing that I can pull from this? And I can say honestly, some of the people who are not my closest friends are the ones that I can get the best improvement from, because some people that you call a hater, they actually are willing to keep it more real with you than your friends. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times your friends, they're always telling you that you're just the greatest thing since sliced bread. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to break it down by criteria. So, and as we're kind of ad-libbing here, waiting for someone to come on, I do want to share this. One of the things that bothers me about the GOAT debate is that before people talk about the GOAT debate, they don't want to talk about the criteria by which they judged and came about how they developed who they thought was the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want them to do is, and what I'm going to share with them is, we're going to go step by step: skill development, price, integrity, and what is your overall recommendation? Okay, because then once you break down skill development, how organized they were, and the price, once you break it down into those two or three different portions, then it kind of helps people understand what you're dealing with. Because as we covered in previous episodes, there's three big criteria that create a good AAU team. One, team organization. Two, the coaching and the skill development. Three, price has to be a factor, where none of us or most of us are not independently wealthy. And then the fourth thing is the integrity of the leaders within the organization. So once we kind of break those four things down, we can kind of give a better understanding of what makes a good AAU organization, and hopefully even the recommendations will be a little bit better. Is there a criteria that you'd like to add, Coach Fowler?
No, I think I actually, I agree with you. So
Okay.
yeah.
Hey, welcome, Brother Brian. How you doing, sir?
Hey man, thank y'all for having me up here, man. Like it's good to finally meet you, Tony.
Oh man, it's great to meet you as well. Any friend of David is a friend of mine. He's always been a solid dude ever since I met him, and always been a man 10 toes down on integrity. So any friend of his is a good friend of mine. So I appreciate you for coming on.
Yes, and Dave, good to see you again, my brother. I
Good to see
sincerely
you, man.
appreciate you.
Good to see you.
Let me tell you about Dave, man. I'm sorry. I gotta get this. I gotta let you know what kind of stand-up guy he is, man. So we moved up from Hampton Road, 757 area, coming out of Charlottesville. Didn't know anybody. Dave and his wife were one of the first few people that welcomed us here, man. Like open arms, like, hey, y'all here, this part of the community, man. It's basketball, it's all love. And I will never forget that. My daughter will never forget that. And especially Italy, man. Like just seeing her, like just the dog that's in her, how she
Amen.
playing 2, 3 years up, this dogging these girls out here, man. It's just a beautiful thing, man.
Amen.
Awesome.
Amen.
Appreciate that, Brian.
Now I will say this about Dave though. I'm from Southern boy. I can kind of tell. I ain't never seen it, but I can tell. I bet homie he got a temper on him, so I ain't trying to be the one. I ain't gonna be the one to poke the bear. You understand me? So, but I ain't gonna be the one. So, because I know I'm from the South, so I know what's up. But with that being said, we shared beforehand that we want this to kind of be like a Google review, but a lot of these Google reviews, you don't know, are they bots? Are they real people? Does the person have enough integrity to put their name and face along with the review? And you don't know. And a lot of times I believe there's an old saying that says, I cannot hear what you're saying because who you really are is screaming in my ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's from Emerson. And I think people can kind of tell about the sincerity of a person, the honesty, the integrity of a person. And these AAU teams, they're a big commitment. And if you pick the wrong one, you can be stuck for a good 6 to 9 months in a spin cycle, and your kid's development can be held up. So we're not trying to be overly negative. We're not trying to like throw anyone under the bus, but we are trying to save some parents some time, and let me just use this analogy. I did 4 years in the Army. I just wish the Army had been honest with me about what I was getting into. You see what I'm saying? Them recruiters be lying, man. They be
And
lying.
my recruiter got me too, bro.
They'll tell you anything to get you to sign. You know what I'm saying? And then once you sign, then they didn't tell you that you was Army property once you signed. So I just shared this. There is no perfect AAU team, but we are trying to get an honest representation about your experience. So briefly, not briefly, you're here. We have around 15, 20 minutes. Mr. Bryant Hall, can you share your experience with AAU teams in the area you live in, and what was your overall impression? And then after you give your overall impression, we're going to look at certain criteria for you to kind of zero in on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like I just said, we moved out from the Hampton Roads area, 757. It was very heavily populated, so it's all kind of teams everywhere, all kind of rec teams, AAU teams, anything you can think of is there, and every team is packed to the gills. So coming out here, not knowing anybody, and able to get with a group, first of all, was we were very thankful about that because it's not common up here to travel at least an hour, 2 hours to go out and play. But we were able to find something within 15 minutes around. So that was the first thing. And I will tell you, you know how they say you don't recognize sunshine unless it rains, right? So we got into this situation not having real experience in basketball. So like we're just here, we're loving it, we're enjoying it. And then this game has a way of humbling you. This game has a way of revealing some things. And so as my daughter progresses through her basketball career, she's met with some not so pleasant experiences.
Mhm.
And when you can come back to a situation and she genuinely enjoys being around the girls.
Right.
She genuinely enjoys the coaches. The coaches care. It's just not this lip service. They
Right.
actually care about you and want to see the best for you. That's something that money can't buy.
Right.
That's something that if a program is offering you that, you will be a fool to leave that situation because I can tell you it ain't like that everywhere.
Amen. Amen. Now, what was that organization?
So she's currently with the Virginia Thunder, and we're absolutely loving it. We've been here before. I want to say we started out as Boo Williams up here, and then they transitioned over to Virginia Thunder, and it's just just the coaches, this the level of commitment that they have, and then the friendships that she's developed through it. It's just I can't speak highly enough of it.
Okay. Okay. Now we like to break things down into four criteria as we go and take a look at these organizations. One of the criteria that Coach Fowler and I spoke about in the earlier episode was you can have great coaches, and I've had a great coach before, but he wasn't necessarily the best organizer regarding communication and logistics and structure and those kind of things. What like on a grade of A to F, how would you give the organization that you're currently at? What would you grade them as?
So again, I'm a little biased because we've been here for so long. But I can tell you, like the communication has never been a problem with us because they know each other. They're like they've got team group chats, parents have group chats, and it's just there's a constant flow of communication, which is a good thing. That I can never tell you that I'm in the dark. I'm not in the dark. I'm not guessing about what's going on. I'm not guessing about when practices are. I'm not guessing about when the next tournaments are because everything is laid out. And I can tell you that a lot of parents appreciate that.
Okay, okay. So one of the complaints that you hear about AAU is skill development. That all they do is play games, and there's very not enough practices, and the kids are not being developed skill wise. That's what you hear in the AAU groups. On a scale of A to F, your current organization, what would you give it?
Yeah, so I think that's a tough one there for me because it depends on the level of the players, right? So if we are a developmental organization, and I'm saying we as a parent member, I'm not running anything in the organization, but these girls come in with a skill set that they have. And a lot of times, if there was a developmental organization, then I would prioritize development. But all these girls are training outside of playing.
Right,
This is more of a sanctuary for these girls. They're traveling, they're getting exposure, which again is a double-edged sword, right? Because if you expose an undeveloped product, then you end up hurting yourself.
okay,
So there is the standard is the standard here, right? So you can't get on the floor unless you're at a level.
right.
And so I would say I'm not looking for development as much as some other parents may, but there is an opportunity for that development, if that makes sense.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So if I had to give you,
We'll
if
do
I
a
had to
grade
give
on
you
that
a
one.
grade,
And let me just co-sign on what you just said. When it comes to the AAU team, I'm looking for team development and X's and O. I'm not really looking myself
Yeah.
for a lot of skills developed. So, but that is something that a lot of parents are looking for. So we included that in the criteria. So we're going to move on now. Price. And I kind of want to give you and I'm gonna spill some tea here. I'm gonna spill my own tea here. Um, we've shopped around and we've tried out with 4 or 5 AAU teams. I can say at least in the Richmond area, the priciest, because I want our parents to know, the priciest option that I've ever seen was PSB wanted to charge us 2,300 for 9 months. You know what I'm saying? And now they did. We didn't really stick around that long. After I heard that price, we didn't stick around that long to see just, I can't remember everything that was included in that. You know what I mean? But I think after even paying 2,300, you still will be expected to do some charitable events and some other thing or some fundraising or whatever. And I'm like, man, after 2,300, I thought I'd get me a limo to the game. You know what I'm saying? But
2,300 for fourth and fifth graders is crazy.
Wow.
Then expecting fundraisers, that's
yes,
wild, man.
yes.
That is crazy.
And
Tune in, like, and subscribe for the love of the game with Tony and David.
then I can share with you all that one time somebody, and I fell for this okey doke where I paid 350, 400, and then I got 350, $400 worth of service. You know what I'm saying? Where it was not the greatest experience. So from your perspective, price wise, the organization that you're with, in A to F, how are things?
Yeah, so there's definitely not going to be a shortage of people trying to take your money in this.
Okay.
You know that. So I'm going to say so up until recently we were sticking around in the same way, but we got approached by a couple different places, and I don't not put anybody out. I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but those going rates were in the twos and 2 grands. This one is not that. I don't want to say a specific number just in case it goes up and somebody's listening to this and they come in and they say, "Well, this is what I heard," but it is not that. I'm trying to delicately dance around this one. I think from my perspective, it's very reasonable from where I am, and that's the most that I can get into it on it. So because I'm not affiliated with the organization, I don't want to set a price standard, and they're looking at me like, who is this guy? I'm just a parent. So
Right.
And Italy played with this team a couple years ago. That's how I met Bryant and his daughter Gabby. And, I will piggyback off what he said. They're reasonable. They were reasonable for where they traveled to back then. I know that they do a lot more traveling now, so I'm assuming it probably went up a little bit from when Italy played, but it made sense.
Okay. Now, how many AAU teams you're saying, like in the Charlottesville area? Is this where it's at?
yeah, we're in the Charlottesville area.
How
So
many AAU
there's
teams
a
are?
few out here. So there's probably 3 or 4 that's out in this area.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So were there any notable strengths or weaknesses that stood out so that other parents can know what stood out regarding this team and your experiences?
Well, for us, this was the first place that we went, and my daughter loved it and loves the environment, loves the coaching that she's getting, the camaraderie from the girls that are on the team and all of that. So that for me, that's what stood out. Because I was watching a few of y'all shows, man, and y'all are just hitting on all the right topics, man. Like people, for some reason in this game, people feel like if somebody else succeeds, it's a blow to their success.
Amen.
When there's room for everybody to eat, everybody can win. In fact, when you do good, that shines a light on me. And
Amen.
that's what we try to. I try to. Me and my wife, we try to instill that into Gabby. And I think that for the most part, she's got a positive attitude. Like she wants to see her teammates succeed. And That's not always the case. And which makes it hard when you're in a smaller area because you know people that's hating on you. As opposed to being in Hampton Road, it's big. Like, yo, you hate, I don't even know who that is. I ain't worried about it. But up here, you like it's you know what I mean? It's different. So that's the hardest part when you get that up close hate.
Yeah.
But I think you just gotta stay positive, man, because karma's real. If you out here
Amen.
on a kid, karma's real.
Amen. Amen. Well, I call it reaping what you sow, but
Yeah.
we have different words for it, but it's the same, basically the same thing. Not some people say it's not the same, but it's basically the same thing. Reaping what you sow. Whatever you put out, it comes back to you. Before we let Mr. Brian Hall go, Coach Fowler, you have any closing thoughts or any additional thoughts before we close out this segment?
No, I mean I think he nailed it. We'll give a shout out. He's named coaching, and all of that. KK Barber, she coaches Gabby's team. There's two teams in that organization, right, Brian? The
So
the
it's
JV
there's
girl.
three now. There's a 15U, 16U, and 17U.
Okay, perfect. So so they have the high school ages locked down. KK also coaches high school basketball, head coach at Albemarle, and she played her college basketball at Liberty. So definitely, it was an awesome experience. I'll say for Italy, Italy was a fourth grader playing with them, and they were eighth graders at the time, seventh and eighth graders.
Wow.
And they accepted Italy. The parents accepted us in. So what he's saying, I could vouch 100%. They were very accepting, even with Italy being much younger. Not any hate. Nobody looking at Italy, like she don't belong. They treated her just like she was one of them. Very awesome program. Very awesome program.
Awesome, awesome. Well, anyone listening, that shows that we're not trying to just throw daggers at anyone. Look at this. The first review is overwhelmingly positive. Amen. So anyone saying that we're just throwing hate, we're not throwing. We're trying our best to offer positive and constructive thoughts to this community. And one of the things that bothers me about the AAU groups is, man, there's a lot of hate on those AAU groups, man. Like sometimes I don't even understand where people come from on these AAU groups. But Mr. Brian Hall, I just appreciate your positivity. I wish my kid could play with your kid, but we're around 5-6 years away. But we appreciate you sharing your journey and sharing your testimony. And thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. You can find the Virginia Thunder at virginia.thunder on Instagram. And let me give a quick plug to my daughter, man, at G Hall 434 on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. G Hall 434. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Hey man,
Okay,
appreciate you,
we're
Brian.
going to put that on the end of the podcast so that they can actually see the Instagram.
Okay, I appreciate you.
Text that to me, Brian.
Okay,
Text that to me real quick, what you just plugged, and we'll put it on the end so everybody can see it.
my man. All right, y'all keep doing what you're doing, man.
Oh, hello, hello.
Hey,
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So
Yes, sir.
so what we're doing here is basically it's kind of like a Google review, but we
Okay.
wanted the people to be able to put a face to it because a lot of those
Okay.
Google reviews, I don't know if you know it, sometimes they look a little shady, or
Yes, they do. Yes,
yes.
they do.
So we wanted to go and put a name and a face to it so that so that the listener can hear the
Okay.
sincerity and the authenticity from your face and from your voice. So,
Okay.
so can you introduce yourself and share your experience with AAU teams?
Okay. My name is Delange Fells. Currently the mom of a 13-year-old girl that plays basketball. My daughter Marilyn. We've been in and out, kind of trying different teams over the last. I say she started when she was in fifth grade, so about 10, going on 11. The first team that we went with was Cap City, is out in Petersburg. It was pretty cool just to get the experience. She was new to learning the game and learning basketball and was interested in basketball, been interested. I don't play. I like the game of basketball, but I didn't play basketball. So as far as, like that, Cap City was pretty cool. For me, the part of Virginia that I live in, which is Richmond, and surrounding counties, I've noticed it's been hard compared to some other areas of Virginia. So like to me, Tidewater has a better AU system when it comes to girls younger,
Amen.
And a lot of teams and coaches and people that are experienced. Northern Virginia as well, the DMV area, if you want to say, to me had a lot more support. So we were doing some skills and stuff going up both ways. I would say then we tried MKW, which was another group. And it was okay. You know, it was good to get the experience for her. You know, a lot of times you don't have a lot of tournaments when they're that young.
Right.
So then the next phase was trying to find a team as she got older, sixth and seventh grade. Just trying to find the right fit was kind of, to me, was the biggest thing. Um, I don't want to say, and the coaching styles. You had different coaching styles, so it depends what you're looking for, as far as coaches are concerned and type of coaches and the experience. I can say I've seen the good and the bad, in that area. And I think you have to do what's best for your child and the development of that child and what coaching style may work for that child. For my daughter, um, she's pretty tough. Um, but I will say, and for young person, especially girls, because basketball is becoming big, but you know, girls' confidence needs to be built up, not tore down.
Right.
So for me, I noticed some of the coaches, you know, verbally, you know, could be a little rough.
Right.
And that's what I disliked with some of the things that I came across with some of the AAU teams. We've kind of learned to wean some things out now. We did it, just finished the season with Jesse Pelarosa's team, and it was pretty cool. But I think for us, we're going to stay with skills and just doing um trying middle school now. She's in eighth grade, so that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Now, just so that people can get, we broke down what makes a good AAU team, and we
Okay.
broke it down into 4 categories. And we just
Okay.
wanted to give. So you mentioned 2 teams, and then you mentioned an organization. I'm not Jesse Pellerosa. Are you familiar with Jesse Pellerosa, Coach?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's an actual organization.
Yeah,
The
Jesse
The
Pelarosa.
Jayhawks.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah,
J.
JNR Lady Panthers is what the name of the team was. But he just started up. Now Jesse Pelarosa used to play for, I think it was George With. And then he played for VCU. And I think he ended up doing football, but he ended up playing overseas basketball for a while. And then he came back to Richmond, and now he's even coach, I think, for New Kent. I think it's New Kent he just finished with, but he's going to be the new coach, head coach for George With, renamed Richmond High School of Arts. So he's going to be the head coach for them. But he tried with his first time doing girls AAU, and my daughter was on the 13U team.
Okay, all right. So we're going to break down these different criteria, and what I want you to do in each, or you can say pass if you want to as well. We don't want to make, we ain't trying to make you mad, okay? So you can say pass if you want to, but
Okay.
or if you don't. So if you don't want to give a grade, you can say pass. But we're going to
Okay.
break down these 4 criteria. One, Coach Fowler and I was speaking. One criteria that defines a good AAU team is their organizational structure. Do they communicate logistics? You know, if they say they're going to be, you know, if they say they're going to be there, are they going to have the gym on time? Are they going to are they going to let you know when they know the tournament is ready? Or those kind of things. So from an organization standpoint, on the grades of A to F, how would you give Cap? What would you give Cap City?
Okay, I can only go off the experience of what I had. I'd say a C minus.
C minus, okay. And then organization wise, what would you give MKW?
I give it a C.
C. And then organization wise, JR Lady Panthers.
I give them a B.
A B. Okay. Now, The second element is skill development. Now, some parents don't even really go to AAU teams for skill development, but
Mhm.
some parents, they want skill development to be part of their AAU process.
Okay.
Some parents think that it should be separate, but for the parents that want their AAU team to be strong in skill development, what grade would you give Cap City for skill development?
Um, I would give it, I mean, and again, this was fifth grade, so I would say I would give them a B. I would give them a B.
Okay, and MKW?
A C minus.
Okay, and JR Lady Panthers.
I would give them a C minus too at the
Okay.
time, only because I think they were new, but being honest, they were new to getting coaches and different things like that. So I think they were, being fair. They were just putting things together. We were kind of like the first team that they had girls. So I would have to say C minus as far as maybe the coaching staff and what was a good fit and what the girls needed.
Okay, now we got three criteria left and we'll be all done. So we thank
Okay.
you for your time and patience. Uh,
Yes.
Cap City, for what you received in value, how would you grade them regarding price, A to F?
A D.
Okay, MKW, A to F, price wise.
A C.
Okay, and then JR Lady Panthers, for what you received in value, A to F.
I give them a B. I give them a solid B. B plus. B plus.
Okay. Now we got two
Mhm.
more criteria. This next criteria is integrity. And when I say integrity, I don't just mean lying or whatever. I'm talking about sportsmanship, respect for players, respect toward, in the tournament. Like let me give you an example. I had a coach that he wanted to turn up at every tournament and get into a fight. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Oh
not
yeah.
that's not what I wanted for my kids. Okay.
Hmm.
And then also when we talk about integrity, um, we want you to consider daddy daughter ball because
Ooh,
sometimes it.
Jesus. I'm glad you touched on that because that's one of the biggest negatives to me with, especially at this level. I've heard it gets better a little bit when you get to high school, but when the younger kids, like with Maryland Fifth, that's what we constantly kept coming across. That daddy, that family, that's, that favoritism on that nepotism, I say. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. I was even my favorite comedian. He made me mad the other. Gary Owen. He was saying that when his kid, when he coached, he said, "Yeah, when I coach, my kid starts." You know what I'm saying? And,
Right, yeah, and
I
it's and
love
it's
Gary.
unfair, and it's unfair to other kids that are developing, especially if there's a real variance and difference in the plays that particular child has. It's not fair to them either because you're setting them up for failure down the line. You
And
actually are.
I love Gary, but he made me mad there. So integrity, putting daddy daughter ball is part of integrity, part of the integrity package. So Cap
Mhm.
City, how would you rate them integrity wise?
I would say they are B plus.
All right, MKW integrity wise.
D.
Okay, and then JR Lady Panthers integrity wise.
D.
All right, now here's the last one, and this is culture. And when I say culture, I mean when you look to the left and you're there for all weekend long at a tournament, and you're going to be there, and sometimes parents they can kind of make you feel left out. Sometimes your kids can feel left out. Sometimes I've seen it where we felt like we would have, I won't go into details, but I felt like we were treated like redheaded stepchildren, you know what I'm saying, in some
Okay, yeah,
organizations.
yeah.
And so I want you, from a culture standpoint, we're grading it on how welcoming is the culture to everybody, or is it a culture where everyone can feel accepted and loved from a cultural standpoint? Cap City, do you do A to F?
D minus,
D minus. NKW.
D minus.
And then JR Lady Panthers.
I give them a C.
Give him a C. Okay, amen. All right, well, now, can you share any specific feedback or insights about these three teams, or any positive? If you were king or queen for a day, what would you tell them to constructively change about their team?
Um, I would say I'm gonna just use the last one, JNR. Definitely the daddy daughter ball. You
Okay.
know, you had a couple coaches that were their daughters were on the team and they started no matter what, and there wasn't uh a strategy to even creating chemistry, and it was I'm gonna make sure my kids start regardless of what your kid is doing and what they bring to the team. That's what I saw with that. And it was a lot of favoritism with that. A lot of daddy daughter with that, a lot of camaraderie with a certain group and clique of people that made, like you said, made me feel at times that I was out of the loop. And maybe because my daughter was a little bit stronger at times, we felt that. We felt like we weren't, that was a negative for us where it should have been a positive. And then with MKW, uh uh the good thing about MKW is that, he had some things that were like camaraderie with the team and having team events to go together. But I'm gonna just be honest, and I'm gonna just say this as an African American child, I felt like we weren't included as much with some of the things. So that left us out. So culturally, we didn't feel like we fit into that space.
Amen. My wife is African American, and I can say that she said the same thing. So
Yeah.
I can co-sign on that, and and I don't want to skip past that because that's how my wife felt in that organization.
Yeah.
So any before we do any closing thoughts, Coach Fowler, you want to jump? You have any thoughts, Coach Fowler?
Yeah, so Delaney, we got to know you as our paths crossed a couple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Maryland and Italy love playing together.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I I guess just maybe the question of was it something with JNR that drew you in more? Because like I said, we as we tried out other programs, that's where our daughters paths crossed a couple times. Was it something necessarily about the other teams that just turned you off from them, or was
No,
it
I
something
think
about JNR that turned that was just like, I like this?
I think the main thing, the other teams, like I said, it was a trial and error, just trying to see Cap City. Like I said, I think they had their own little clique going on. Maryland was young, so it was just a trial for us. MKW, we had got referred with that, and then like I said, yeah, it was a bad taste in our mouth as far as, just some of the things culturally as an African American mom and my daughter being, that way, and we could tell we were really included in some stuff. And then when it came to JNR, I'm gonna be honest with you, we had left another team um because of some stuff that had happened. So we kind of went with where some of the other girls went. So that's why we kind of went to JNR. It wasn't so much that I say well, he had it a lot more organized. Everything was together. So I would say this. He knew when the game's gonna be, when the tournaments were gonna be. It was no switching up stuff. It was no last minute changes and all of that. You know what I mean? My
Mhm.
main thing was the daddy daughter part of it. Having people that were coaching, and really, I'm gonna be honest with you, didn't have the experience to be able to do that kind of coaching. And But overall, it was more organized than any of the other ones that we had touch base with. But we kind of flowed with some girls that and some parents that told us about JNR. That's really why we went over there. Because some other parents were going over that way, and so that's why we kind of led. And she didn't get the chance to really get to play because she broke her foot. She left the other team, then she broke her foot, and so and then some other things happened, and she wanted to continue. She wanted to at least try AAU, for a season, and she was able to do that, to see if this something she wanted to stick with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, we
I was
just
gonna say but before she goes, I like how she mentioned the trial and error because it that just seems to be that's kind of where our family's at. That's
Yeah,
kind of where our family has been as well.
yeah,
Tony, I know you guys have kind of went through that as well, where people kind of pointed as team hopping. They try to
yeah,
put that stigma as team hopping, and
yeah.
rather than saying, hey, sometimes you have to go, you try something out. It may or may not work.
Right.
But it kind of gets that stigma of team hopping, and
Yeah.
and
And I think there's a difference between team hopping and, like you said, trial and error. Now I do know people that team hop. You know what I mean? I
that is,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, you there's a difference between team hopping. I mean, you can look at the portal now with popping in and out and going to what's best or what's gonna work and all of that. But there's a difference between trial and error and what's especially at their ages and fundamentals right now and being taught foundational stuff and making sure their confidence is intact. Because this makes a break, as they say, by the time a girl is 12 or 13, they can quit a sport depending on the experience that they have. So that's very important because they're dealing with a lot of stuff and growing up, so their confidence is still very fragile, and you want to make sure that that's intact you know
Yep.
Amen. Well, Coach Fowler, they can say we team hopping for now. All I know is uh, until the ninth grade hits. You know what I mean?
right,
In the ninth grade, that's when everything
right,
starts getting more set in stone. So,
right.
and I want to make sure that by the ninth grade we done found the
Yep.
right spot.
I agree.
I
And
agree.
before we let you go, I just wanted to say as well. I want to say something positive before I say something negative. I think the guy who runs MKW is he's a phenomenal leader and he has a great personality. But I will
Yeah.
say this: MKW, that is the daddy daughter capital of Virginia. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
We are the daddy daughter capital in Virginia. So
Yes,
it,
yes,
it, it
yes,
is hard to, there's a lot of that over there. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
nothing to do with him. And I'll say this: they are the only ones that's dedicated to just girls basketball. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like they're focused on. I like that element of them.
I do like that.
yeah,
But what you said, my wife also concurred, and then also there's a lot of daddy daughter at MKW as well. So
yeah.
just something to watch for. As long as you go in and you know what you're about to walk into, then
Yeah,
as long as
yeah.
you. So we just want to thank you, Delaney. We appreciate your
Oh, I
frankness.
appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's not often where people are willing to stand 10 toes down in what they believe and to speak on it. So we really appreciate you coming on board.
All right. I appreciate y'all.
Oh,
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Delaney.
thank you,
All
Delaney.
right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Bye bye.
Hey, Michael, I appreciate you for coming on again.
No problem, man. Happy to be here. Appreciate you all.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we've been doing basically a in-person Google review of AAU experiences that people have had. And
Okay.
the reason why we're calling it a Google review in person is a lot of times I don't know if you've ever read Google reviews that sometimes they could be bots. Sometimes you don't know how sincere they can be, and sometimes you don't know the credibility of the person. So for this podcast, we wanted the viewer to be able to see a face, see a name, and they can kind of feel out the opinion that's being shared themselves. And this is just all of our different perspectives, our different experiences that we've had with AAU teams throughout the Virginia region. So, can you, for anyone who missed the first podcast or last week's podcast, can you briefly introduce yourself and share your experience with AAU teams in Virginia?
Yes, sir. So my name is Mike Turner. I reside in Richmond, Virginia. I have three wonderful children who all participate in AAU travel basketball. I have a son who just turned 15. He plays for River City Rain. I have a daughter who's 13 who plays for VA Havoc. And I have a younger son who is 10 and he plays for Team Loaded here in all based in Richmond. I've been at it now. This wraps up our 4th year doing AAU. I want to say my youngest started with my oldest at the same time, so they've been 4 full years, and my daughter started maybe a few months after that. So pretty much been at it for 4 years with all 3 kids. It's a handful, but I love it. I enjoy it because they have a passion for it. It's not like I'm forcing them to do it. I tell them all the time, hey, if you don't want to do this, the YMCA is cheaper. Like you can go play YMCA basketball for $80 for a month and a half. So I really enjoy it because my kids have a passion for it. So I've been at it for 4 years, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Amen. Amen. So what we're going to do here is to help people understand the details and the structure. One of the things I hate about the GOAT debate on ESPN or FS1 is they want to talk about the GOAT debate, but then they never get into the criteria of, well, how did you come to that conclusion?
Right.
Well, Coach Fowler and I, we basically have 4 criteria of what makes a good AAU organization.
Okay.
And we're going to cover here organization, skill development, price. Oh, excuse me, 5. Organization, skill development, price, integrity, and culture. So the first one for the organizations that you've run into, how would you rate the organizational structure, the communication, and the logistics on a scale of A, A being the best and F being the worst for the organizations that you've dealt with?
Well, me having 3 different, right now, 3 different teams. At one point, Mikey and Cam, my 2 boys, my youngest and my oldest, were in the same organization. But how it's kind of ran, I don't want to say they're in the same organization, but technically it's like they don't really have no dealings with each other. Like it kind of all depends on your coach. It's almost like franchise. It's like
Right.
franchise. It's like, so the younger team can be ran differently from the older team. My son, the oldest one, he's been with them and it's been the same coach for 4 or 5 years. Everything runs like super smooth. We never have any issues. I think the biggest thing his mom would say, like, "Yo, he just put a new tournament on the schedule," but that's going to happen with pretty much any AAU team. They run it by the parents. Hey, do y'all want to do this? But nothing but great reviews with my oldest son, and that's River City Rain. I want to say, I think that's 2029, I believe, 2029. So great reviews with them. My son Mikey, who is on Loaded now, this is just his first year, but we had 3 years prior with River City Rain. He played up, so he's the class of 2033, but that team was 2032. And that team, I would say, we really gained the most experience as far as like just the full AAU experience. We started off first year coach, first year team. We didn't have jerseys, so we were playing with the rec league jerseys from the local rec league. Just jerseys that said Nets. It was the NBA Nets jerseys or whatever like that from the rec league. So we started off like that. A lot of growing pains, very difficult because, one, my son is young, and then so he's in first grade playing on a second grade team, and we're doing third grade tournaments sometimes and fourth grade tournaments. So imagine that, a 6-year-old playing against like an 8 or 9-year-old. It was a lot. But the next year, we won our first tournament maybe like a month into the season, and that carried on, and we actually won NTBA nationals. So that really, it was like we were down. We grinded all the way up to a national championship. And that was like super, super awesome. With my daughter's team, she played for Rocket, which then transformed to Elevate Elite, which was the higher tier girls. One thing I can say about them, very, 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 very organized. Everything schedule-wise was always on the app. Practices, because they are their own organization, they have their own gym. So it was never, hey, we're practicing at this gym. Hey, we're practicing at this gym. It's, hey, practice is at the facility. Y'all have a court 3 at 6:30. So very organized dealing with Rocket and dealing with Elevate Elite through Rocket at the time. So experiences were all different for each one. I can pinpoint things that I love about each one, and other things that I can say, hey, I wish they worked on these things, or even, hey, we do this for my daughter's team, or we do this for my son's organization. Why don't we implement this over here? So it was always something, great between the three, and it's always different things that can be worked on for sure.
Okay. So, so for those 3 teams, would you say that they're like A's and B's? We're gonna
letter grade. Letter grade wise, I would say my daughter.
Just from organization, just like how organized they were.
How organized they were. My daughter's team, definitely, I would say an A. Okay. My son's team an A. My older son's team an A. Okay. And then my younger son, I would give him their organization. I would probably go with like a C, like an average, because like I said, it was first year coach, first year team, and like I said, it's like franchise. Like you kind of gotta be on the the person that kind of manages and owns the team. That coach has to be on him. Hey, we're trying to get jerseys. Hey, we're trying to do this. So it was a lot to deal with, and we felt his struggle, but that's why I said that second year we hit our stride and everything started with jerseys on time, book bags on time, like everything was like perfect, and it was national championship was at the end of it. So I would say AAC.
Okay. And what was the organization with the C? What was that one again?
That's River City Reign, and that would have been 2032. It was a 2032 team.
Okay. Now, skill development. Now, we'll put this disclaimer out. Not all parents want an AAU team to be about skill development. Some parents want the AAU. Like, for instance, me, I don't expect you to develop my kid. I expect my kid to develop in a team environment.
Right.
And for me, AAU is the report card of all the skill work that we've done. But for skill development or any skill development that's offered, how would you rate A to F? Or if you want to hit pass because you don't really feel skill development is an important criteria, that's your call as well. What's your thoughts?
No, it's important, definitely, because you want to see the development for your child. Now, you got to do your part as a parent and make sure they're getting training, or you making sure you're taking them to the gym and you're staying on them so they can do their part. It's just like school. Like you go to school, you get taught things, you come home, we got to be on you to make sure you do your homework, help you. Same thing with basketball. You go there, you learn these things, and when you come home, we supposed to be there to assist you, whether that's us or getting you a trainer or wherever it may be. So now I am one of those parents that think there should be some type of development within the AAU program that you are, putting your kids in. I would say for my son Cameron, my older son, he started basketball late, and where he was when he started to where he is now is like leaps and bounds. And we barely did any like training with him. So I would give their development a A. I even like after games, they're talking to him. Before games, they're talking to him. They always encourage him, like, Cam, like, you're one of the strongest guys on the court. Like, it's always positive reinforcement. Do this, work on this. I've never seen them like where coaches get on their players. If they get on him, it's a different feel than like they're not mad at him. It's more so the expectations, like, yo, we know you're better than what you're presenting. I need this out of you. And he takes that criticism very well. So I would say an A definitely for them.
That's impressive. Now, what's that organization again so that people can hear it?
That's River City Reign 2030. I think that's 2030. 2029.
That's impressive. All right, go ahead. I just wanted the fans to be able to hear that clearly. That's very impressive. Go ahead.
Yep, for sure. And my daughter will be the next. That is the organization she was with was Elevate Elite 2030. And the development, I would say a B. they I would say a B. They at that point they had a lot of that first year. They had a lot of like good kids, and I think they developed because they were just playing each other. It wasn't anything specifically that organization was doing. I can tell you that it wasn't really like no training or anything like that. I can say that. But they had a lot of talent. And if you just have a team full of a lot of talent, like you got 5 starters who are all on different teams now, who I would say at least 2 of those starters, actually 3 of them, I would project them to definitely go D1 just based on where they're at right now.
Wow.
They had great talent, and it was just them being around each other that I feel like their development became, good or whatever like that. So I would say a B, but again, like I said, it was no real like actual like training. And that's something that I spoke before. I was like, hey, like maybe because they started losing girls. And I felt like if we had a little bit more training, we wouldn't have lost those. Because like I said, three of them are, if they stick with basketball, and this is what they want to do, they're going to go D1. There's no doubt in my mind that 3 of them at least from that starting lineup is going to go D1. So I would give them a B, just based on the talent they had, man. Those girls pushed each other to be better.
Mm. Okay, and then the third team, you mentioned the third team.
Third team, that would be River City Reign 2032. Development wise, I would say a B, and I would say I would go A. The only reason I can't say A is because a few of the kids started playing with other teams throughout the year, and a few of them are still on those teams, and like those kids developed. They're real good, man. It's a few of them that are all going to go to Hungry Creek Middle School, in Henrico, and like 3 of them are all going to be on the same team, and they played with different teams this past year. One of them played for Loaded, a couple of them played for an organization called Riptide, who's a very, very, very good team. They kind of do local. They don't really travel outside of the area too much, but they're super, super good, and they're going to have a great team on their hands. But I can't fully say A for River City Reign in that aspect, because on that team specifically, those parents had their kids training outside of the organization a lot. Like one of the kids, and I want to shout them out at the end before I go, that national championship team that won, I wanted to shout out each of the kids by name. But one of the kids' name is Caden Jones. He goes to a trainer, AP Hoops, who's probably like the best trainer like in our area. Definitely probably the most popular trainer, super organized, very good. And he's been going to her, I want to say probably maybe 2 to 3 years. And you just can see like every few games, consistently his handles getting better, his confidence getting better. And then there's a couple other kids who were going to different trainers, and you just can see them just gradually getting better. So the organization itself wasn't implementing a lot of training, like I said previously about the other organization, but the parents were real specific and real diligent with, I'm gonna make sure I get my kids training outside of the organization, because it's very important. Like I said, I am one of the parents that think that you should get some type of development from the organization, but it is on you to get that individual or group training sessions. Every trainer said at least twice a week. So I would give them a B. I would give them a B for sure.
Awesome. We got 3 more criteria, and we'll be done.
Okay.
Thanks for those three organizations, for the value that your child received and your family received on a scale of A to F. What did you feel about the price for those 3 organizations?
Both Reign organizations, I'm getting the years confusing. 2032 and I think 2029. I would give them an A. The pricing isn't bad. I mean, you pay for your jerseys, you get a jerseys bag, warm-up shirt, and then a portion of that is the tournament fees or whatever like that. So with Reign, we're not paying anything out of pocket after we pay our initial fee. So that's super awesome. with, so I would give I would give them an A. And then elevated lead, it was the 2030 team. I would say I would say a C. And the reason I would say that is it is depending on your pockets, it is pretty like pricey. It's not a one. I mean, if you have it to afford to pay at one time, you can, but it's like a monthly thing. You pay per month. I mean, at least that's how I was doing it. Um, and that's just and they do fall league, winter league, and then it goes into AAU. So you're pretty much from September till July, I think. I know it's only like 2 months off that you don't got to pay. But you're paying, like I said, unless you just got the money to just pay 10 months worth of what their fees are up front, you're paying like monthly. And that comes with basically, you got practices, those are covered at the facility. And then you have your games and I can't remember if jerseys were included. I really feel like it's not. You got to purchase your jerseys too.
You pay a uniform fee with them.
Say it again.
I'm pretty positive you pay a uniform.
You gotta pay. You gotta buy.
You
buy the uniform separate. Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty expensive, and I would say what I would have liked to see within that fee is some type of training, even if it was okay. Practice is 6 to 7:30. Training, mandatory training is 7:30 to 8:30. So your money is going. At least you're getting a group session training or something once a week or twice a week. Because if you look at it, I mean, trainers $35 an hour, 45, 50. So if you look at, okay, you give us maybe once a week, that covers some of the money that we're giving you, every month. But it really was, you're basically paying for AAU for the whole year, but you're really not playing AAU in the winter and fall. You're playing in a rec league that, that's put together by the organization. So price wise, I would say C. I would say C. It's yeah. Compared to what I get with my boys, I would say C. And there's another organization I don't want to, because I have not dealt with them. Just from what I know, there's another organization that kind of does it the same way in the Richmond area, where you're paying per month. Because a parent asked me about them. I was like, yeah, I know the organization. We've played them before. We beat them. I throw that in there. Hey, we beat them all the time. She's like, yeah, this is how much they're going to charge me, per month. And I was like, oh, that's similar to how my daughter was. And I was like, okay, so maybe that is with these bigger organizations that have a lot of teams and stuff like that. And so maybe that's just how they do it everywhere. But I would give a C. I would say a C.
Okay, all right. Well, we got two criteria left. The next criteria is integrity. Now, we don't just mean are they liars? We don't mean that, because we go down that road. But when we talk about integrity, we're talking about the team's overall integrity regarding sportsmanship, fair play, respect for players, opponents, and officials. And then also we wrap integrity into, are they doing daddy-daughter ball? And what I mean by daddy-daughter ball or mommy-daughter ball is there Coach Fowler and I view starts, playing time, and shot selection as holy sacraments in the sport of basketball, where you should not be getting starts, playing time, and shot selection based on who your mommy and daddy is. You know what I'm saying? So it should be based off of the team situation and a meritocracy. So regarding that, integrity, sportsmanship, mommy, daddy ball, fair play, respect for players, officials, and opponents. How would you rank these three teams? A through F.
A through F. A for both range teams. I've never had an issue with anything like that integrity wise with either of those teams. Anything that I had an issue with, never had an issue with my older son. If I had an issue with my younger son, because he's younger, so you deal with the playing time going up and down. You dealing with his emotions and stuff like that. I would go to and I've only went to the coach one time because if you just crying because playing time, I mean, we're not going. That's not something the coach. And if I see that okay, the person that's getting the playing time is deserving of the playing time. I understand you're crying, but that's a part of basketball, man. He's making the best decision for the team. So there's only one time that I ever even went to him, and it was more so of trying to help him be strategic with managing my son, who is his player. I said, because at the end of the day, I'm his dad, but he's your player. So with me knowing his emotion a little bit better, hey, this is what I would recommend. And when he messes up, don't get on him too hard. Maybe don't pull him right away. As soon as he make a mistake a couple times, don't instantly sub him. Let him maybe work himself out of it. And if you do need to sub him as far if it's messing up the team, then go ahead and pull him, but also talk to him. So that's the only time I ever even had to talk to him about anything as far as like playing time. And like I said, it was more so a strategic type thing coming to him for us to work together. But I would give both of those organizations an A. With Elevate Elite, integrity wise, I would say I didn't see anything per se with my daughter. And with me having 3 towards her last year, I wasn't at a lot of the practices and games, so I didn't see a lot. From what I did see, I would say it was fine. I can't say per se an A. Just from secondhand accounts, I would probably go with like a C.
Okay.
With secondhand accounts, and I only say that because, like I said, I only can base it on what I saw, what I know to be true. Um, I would say a C as far as integrity, but dealing directly with the organization, coaches, assistants, they seem to do things the right way. Um, it's just more so kind of like bringing it home, I would say, if that makes sense.
Amen. Amen. And then the last criteria is culture. Um, when we talk about culture, when you're a parent and you're stuck there for a tournament all weekend long, and then you're looking at the other parents, and you're having to go to restaurants with these parents, and you're having, they become, for good or for bad, they become family. Sometimes it's dysfunctional family, and sometimes it's a positive family. How would you rate these organizations from a culture perspective? Did you feel included? Did you feel that your family belonged? Did you feel that this was a positive environment, not just for your kids, but for your entire family?
Yep. So my oldest son with Rain, 2029, definitely like he's super close with all the boys. Moms get along, dads get along. So I would say an A. With my younger son, River City Rain, 2032, man, those boys like love each other like they're brothers. They, like I said, the whole team disbanded. Everybody went to different teams after last year,
Right.
the year after we won a championship. Everybody is now on different teams. And again, like I said, my son was a year under. So he's really 2033, and another kid is 2033 as well. It was 2 kids that were a year younger, and they treat them like they're brothers, like they're their little brothers.
Wow.
I still have a close relationship with several other parents. I go to their games to support their sons. They come and watch Mikey play. Mikey was just at King's Dominion with one of them yesterday.
Wow.
His mom went and picked him up, took him to King's Dominion with Mike. I go and pick him up and take him to the gym with Mikey. 2 of the dads from that team, I'm super close with. We talk literally every day. We have a group chat and we're talking every day about everything, sports, work, what's going on with the boys. The boys are on the video game all night. And I text Mikey the other day. He ain't answer the phone. So I went in the group chat. I said, hey, is Mikey on the game with Chase and Junior? And Junior's dad was like, yeah, he on the game. I said, hey, tell him to go charge his phone and call me. I text him. So this is like, it's like family. We're really like family. Like I really enjoyed our time together. Mikey gets to guest play sometimes on one of the kids' teams because his dad was the assistant coach. He has his own team now. And if he needs extra players, hey, do Mikey want to guest play? Mikey guest played like the last 2 weekends with them, and he loved it because he get to play with his couple of his big brothers because a few of them play on that team now.
Right.
So I would definitely, for them, I would say an A+, man. Like it was like a family. It was a lot when everybody started leaving. I was like, dang. But it was the best decision for their kids. So I would give them an A plus. Um, Elevated League 2030. I want to say it definitely started like the core group of girls or parents or families that was there, very, very close. But then every year it was like maybe two will leave and two will come on, and two will leave and two will come on. So it became where it was like maybe 3 to 4 girls that was their original girls that was there. Then it was like 5 that were new, or 5 that were 1 year, 2 that were first year. So it definitely started off, we were all close, but then it just, everybody trickled away. And then the last year, like I said, I was distant because I was dealing directly with the boys. And my kid's mom, she was doing specifically Milan, my daughter's practices and games. And she told me specifically, she was like, yeah, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Like it's not the family environment. The girls are not as close as how they used to be. And that is kind of what pushed us a little bit to say, okay, well, maybe it's time for her to go to a new team, or, she doesn't feel comfortable. She's coming to practice and she's going to games and she's playing, but you can tell it's not as fun, or her attitude isn't the same, or she's standoffish. I was like, hey, well, maybe she wants to go to a new team. So I would say that last year, based on observing my daughter's like attitude, hearing from the mom, I would say probably like a D towards the end. And like I said, it started off great. Like I've taken one of the girls who was real close with Milan. I'm from Charlottesville. I'm in Charlottesville right now at Tonsler for this big tournament. And I bring her to the UVA women's games and take them down on the court, pick them up, take them to the gym. So we had a close camaraderie with a few of the parents there, where our girls would get together outside and do things together. But once those people start leaving and there's new people, then it's kind of like, dang, I'm here by myself, or I only got this one other friend. So it definitely started off good. Like I said, it was an A. Like, I super enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to the practice, seeing the dads, us talking about sports. And then the last full year, up until this year, I would probably say it probably was like a D, specifically just with that team, that specific team during that time, not the whole, I would say, tenure, but
Right.
like this past probably year and a half, it probably was like a D for our family.
Okay.
So I want to follow up with that with Mike, because I have experience. We were a part of that team. And we were one of the ones that came on late. We were there not this past year, but the year prior to that. And Mike, I did feel like for the most part that that was a tight knit group. When we would go to tournaments and when we were at practices and things like that, we all kind of sat together, we all kind of talked and hung out. But one thing we started really feeling was, as the year went along, everybody kind of it started to become, if one child shines, that means my child is not shining anymore, and it kind of became some tension there. Um, is that something that was new, or do you think that everybody kind of felt that way all along? I feel like that part of that was kind of what tore that group apart, because that was a super talented Tony. We've talked about it before, man. That if that team stuck together uh,
Nationally ranked.
through the years, they would be nationally ranked.
Yep.
They that was a solid group of girls. They had everything from size to shooters to ball handlers. I
Guard
mean,
play, deep, everything.
defense. I mean, that from top to bottom, that was a solid group. But what do you think, Mike, man? Because that's where that we keeping it real. We started feeling like, if somebody would do well, there'd be a little jealousy or a little hate, and that started causing a little bit of tension. We felt like amongst the girls, things that would be said, kind of, an invisible shot or whatnot, just kind of throwing shots, from the
So
from the side. Yeah.
what I so and you would know, because even I want to say I came to like one game, and it was like I think we may have been playing with Havoc at the time. He was like, "Hey," and it was been so long since I've been to a game. So when Milan is coming back and she's saying certain things, or Ash is saying certain things like, "Hey, like it doesn't feel the same," I'm like, "Okay, well, what's the issue?" Because I'm not seeing it or whatever like that. I know when I was there, I'm like, "All right," even when I think Italy tried out with another girl, and Ashley was like, "I really think you're like, cause I'm big on defense and energy. It's like, yo, that's a coach's dream. If you're gonna play hard, you're gonna find minutes. So that's what I always preach to any of my kids. It's like, yo, play hard defense, give good energy, and yo, you're gonna find minutes." But she was talking about Italy as far as like energy and defense. Like it's a girl that tried out that was, I think you would like her as far as like how she plays. And I was like, oh, all right, cool, cool. So when I finally saw, I was like, okay, I see what you were talking about. Like, yeah, she has like what I like to see out of a player outside of skills and everything is like certain intangibles. And I was like, yeah, she's good. But ever since then, that's when we switched it and say, hey, instead of us beating ourselves with three kids, like, oh, well, who's going here tonight? Who's doing this tonight? Okay, for everything Milan, you take care of that. For everything Mikey, I'll take care of this. And we split basically to Cam because Cam is older, so he can call his coach and say, hey, coach, can I get a ride? Or he can ride with somebody else or something like that. So I didn't per se get to see it, but what you're saying is similar to the stuff that Ashley was saying, where it's like, I feel like some of the girls are, I don't know if it's jealousy. Come back to that, what mom was saying was like she feels like maybe either some of the girls could be jealous of time or the leash, which we say like the leash that you have in a game, like the amount of mess ups that you can do, all the what you can just do in a game. She feels like some of the girls may feel like jealous about that, or even they may not feel that way, but it could be conversations that parents are having and they're overhearing it, or even conversations that they're having with their child. Like I've heard it on other teams, like you need to go out there, and you can tell the tone is you need to go out there and score because this person is scoring. It ain't got nothing to do with winning or losing. It's like, yo, you go out there and play like this because this person is playing like this and they're getting shine. So I feel like that probably could have been a little bit of the energy that was coming through, where it was, hey, this person is getting shine. You're getting overshadowed. We're winning, but you're getting overshadowed as an individual. So I need you to go out there and do this. And what happens is I don't think the girls may have festered that energy. It could have been something where the parents were kind of maybe telling them to play a certain way or pulling them a little bit back or moving towards a different friend group or something like that. Like I said, I didn't really get it in it. I don't want to say it sucks that I didn't get to see it, but I got firsthand accounts of specifically, like I said, mom saying, hey, like the energy on the team ain't the same anymore. And even with Milan, it was like, I asked her, and I always tell him, like, be honest, like, I'm not going to be mad or this ain't going to change this or that, but I want you to tell me the truth. Like, how do you feel? And it's like, well, I don't really talk to anybody no more. I'm like, oh, that's not, and it's not like you're a super talkative person, but we had a team where majority of the girls talk to each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't separate cliques or anything like that. Of course, there's going to be girls that may hang out a little bit more outside of the team, but when the team come together, it was one solid unit. And from what I was told, that it completely changed. It was these two here, these three here, these two here, and that is what ultimately kind of fully broke the team up. Because like I said, it was like every year one person to leave. Like we had a super, super good girl who was one of the girls I said that would probably go D1. She was like the first year. And her issue was the team not being pushed hard enough because we had all this talent. This is before we got Italy, and this is before we got another one of the girls who was super good. And her mom was just like, hey, like, why aren't we doing these tournaments? Hey, why haven't we played at Boo Williams. I mean, if you're in Virginia, you know what Boo Williams is. Why haven't we played down there? Even if we're going to lose, why don't we play to get better? Because we have girls that have college aspirations, and that's how she left because she wasn't being pushed, and we have the talent. And then it every year it was the same thing. Hey, like I really don't feel like we're getting the most out of our girls because we're not playing tougher competition. And then, like I said, then you get new girls, new girls, new girls, new girls, and then it became sectioned off where it's in the team. There's two, three, four different cliques of friend groups, and it's like you're not going to win a lot with those type of teams. I can tell you that right now. Not on a competitive level.
Yeah.
It's amazing you said that because we've never talked about that before, Coach Fowler, and Mike just brought up something that I ain't never. Is that a lot of these organizations, because they have the same group of friends or the same group of, they have the same Rolodex, a lot of times they tend to you end up always playing the same people all the time instead of someone mixing it up and, getting outside of the same little friend group that the coordinators have. You need someone that's got a more expansive Rolodex so you can get out to Boo Williams or you can get out to other locations. So I've seen that as well. So Mike, I just want to tell you before we kick it to Coach Fowler to close things out, I just want to tell you thank you for coming on. I think anyone who listens to your testimony, I think they can. For me, it just kind of your integrity and the way you handle yourself. I think that you should give them a lot to think about, as they consider these teams, and you come off as a very fair and reasonable person to me. So this is why this is much more valuable than just a Google review.
Right.
You can hear the person's voice. You can hear what they're made of. You can kind of hear how they're speaking. That you can hear the credibility, and you come off as a very credible person, Mike. And we just want to thank you for coming on, Coach.
Thank you.
Let Mike go. You have anything you'd like to share?
Nope, I think we're good, man. Appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah, before I go, I want to shout that NCBA national championship team. I want to say that was wasn't last year. That would have been it was the 2023 NCBA national championship for the 2032 year. So I wanted to shout out all the boys and the coaches from that team from River City Reign 2032. So Coach Al, Coach Sad, players Mikey, Junior, Caden, Bryce, Landon, Blake, Solomon, Matt, and I think that was everybody. Chase. I have a picture. I was like, let me look at these kids' pictures so I can make sure that I don't miss anybody, man. But Solomon, Landon, Bryce, Mikey, Junior, Blake, Caden, Matt, and Bryce. Yeah, that's everybody. So I just wanted to shout those guys out on a great season that they had. Like I said, they were in it from the mud. The first year it was no book bags, no jerseys. It was a rough learning patch. But that next year, they turned it around. And I just wanted to shout that team out and shout all the families out from that season, man. I just wanted to give them a shout out.
Hey, Mike, if you send me if you can send me that championship pick, because I know y'all had to take a pick, send me that pick, and then any socials that you want me to promote on that team, and we'll put them all on the scroll at the end of or matter of fact, we won't even put them on the end. We'll put them in this section right here.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll send Dave a pic that I have them. I have it right here in my phone, so I'll shoot that to you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you again, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, Mike.
All right. Thank y'all, man. Be safe.
Yes, sir.
Now, Coach Fowler, it comes to us, our grades. All right. So any team that, as a matter of fact, if you don't want to mention all your teams, I do feel that I'm going to mention my teams. For the teams that your child has played for, did you want to give any grades, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we can do that. And Italy has played, for several different teams. We played for a couple over here. She actually played for two teams at one time in Charlottesville before we moved to Richmond. Moved her over to Richmond to start playing over there. I'm down. Listen.
The first team that Italy played for What were their names?
So she played for Vision out of Charlottesville, which was a fifth grade team at the time. She was in fourth grade, and she played for Boo Williams, which became Virginia Thunder halfway through that year, which was an eighth grade team, and she was in fourth grade.
Okay, so for that first team, organization wise, A through F.
I would say organization is from that age from for her age group. That coach communicated well, uh, did okay from top to bottom. I would probably drop the grade some. It was vision, and I would probably say C, just because I felt like that team, the coach for that team, she was organized and kind of kept things sort of organized. The organization top to bottom, not so much. And VA Thunder, I would say A. Coach KK was phenomenal with communication, kept us in the loop, and never felt like communication dropped off there.
Now, skill development. Do you want to even include skill development? Because do you even look for that in a team or?
I mean, I do because I do feel like you should be able to get it. You should be able to get it um, through the team. I will say that for Vision, I didn't think the coach was strong skill development wise. I also think the team was very um, beginner. Maybe beginner might be a little, might be a little too much even for that team because that team, they were and Italy being she was way more advanced than they were, and so practices for Italy were kind of just like this is not where it's at. So I would say for that team, development was not the greatest, and I don't feel like that coach is a great developer.
Okay, Price, A through F. Those two
Uh,
teams.
well, I will say this: I feel like Vision got over on me on Price. Got over on me. I feel like they owe me money back.
Okay.
That's a that's a story for another day. But no. So Vision F as far as that goes, and VA Thunder A plus. I felt like the amount of money we paid for the schedule that we played. And Italy didn't play a ton on that team. She played some, um, but because she was a fourth grader playing with eighth graders, so she didn't play a ton. But I still don't. I feel like she got the development from playing against older kids, and that helped and all of that. So I don't feel slighted the least as far as the money goes. So I'd say A plus with what she charged for what we got.
Okay. And then integrity, and I've already given the definition several times, so I will stick with what I've been sharing with everybody else.
Um, Integrity, not so much. For vision, I would probably say an F. And I'll give a quick story from that program that didn't necessarily involve my daughter. But it was after that season, I started seeing them post that they were going to be on a shoe circuit. And so I, kind of looked into it a little bit because I was like, wait a minute, they were last year they were telling us that we were going to be on this shoe circuit and we never were. So I looked into it. They weren't on the shoe circuit. So I kind of put them out there and said, hey, this was probably one of the incidents that stopped me from posting as much online just because I'm not going to sit there and argue on the internet like that. Um, but I reached out and kind of put it out there like this team's not a shoe contract team. They're trying to promote kids to drive all the way from Harrisonburg to come to Charlottesville and all the Richmond to come to Charlottesville and Northern Virginia to come to Charlottesville to play for this shoe circuit team. And I said, you're not listed on their website as being a part of their shoe circuit. And his response to me was, well, if we get the right players, they told us we would have a chance to be on their shoe circuit. But that's not what you put on your flyer. That's not what you were putting out there. You were putting out there that they were already playing for a shoe circuit team. So these kids may leave another program. They may, they driving all this distance thinking that they're coming to try out and play for a shoe circuit team. And you know, I said, that's, you're lying to them
Yeah.
or whatever. Um, and I was, kind of just basically saying like, what are you going to do if you don't get the right players and you have these kids thinking that they made a shoe circuit team and you don't get enough players for that shoe company to do that. Uh, and he said, sometimes in business you have to take a risk. I said, well, you're risking other people's futures and you're risking them, not you. And he said, sometimes in business you got to take a risk. And I said, man, I lost all respect. There's no integrity there at all. So that's that. But I had already had my own experience with the organization, so that right there just showed me who I was already working with, and so I just completely stepped away from that situation, uh, and was like, yeah, I can't can't deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So, but as far as integrity with Virginia Thunder, I thought that was solid. I felt like as far as I again, nothing but positive to say about Virginia Thunder.
Okay. And then last thing, culture for those two teams.
Culture. Um, Again, I think the culture kind of fell a little bit under the integrity. I mean, as far as with vision, the culture of that team was not solid. Kids skipping out on running drills that needed to run. You know, the culture there with the parents were constantly. We felt so much hate, because Italy played that whole season frustrated because it's like if we'd get beat 25-6 or 25-10, and Italy would have all of them, all the six and the 10, and you know, but she wants to give the ball up, but when she gives the ball up, they drop it or it goes through their hands or they catch the ball and throw it behind their head, things like that, and she's frustrated. So parents are talking in the crowd and things like that, and we never felt comfortable with that group of people at all, just because you know I feel like I would be happy if my daughter played with somebody like a Brooklyn Brown or somebody that was a bigger name or something like that. Uh, you know, but some people just hate on somebody, a little bit more when they are more skilled, I guess. I don't know. And that was our experience there. Virginia Thunder, um, that was solid. I mean, the culture there was great. I mean, there were some parents a little bit more rambunctious, I guess, than that we would be, we, so, but we had a great chemistry. We all, hung out, we talked. I mean, at the end of the season, we even had all the families over to our house at the end of that season for the end of the season pool party. So we just had everybody over to our house and was able to fellowship, for that as well. So the culture there was solid.
Awesome, awesome. So that was her fourth and fifth grade season.
That was her fourth grade season.
Fourth grade. So fifth grade. Let's move on up in the timeline. Fifth grade.
So
Well,
after that, so we left. The only reason we left Virginia Thunder is because we didn't see her getting a fair shot with that age group. If they would have ever had her age group, we'd be saving an hour and 30 minutes, driving every week, every practice. Um, but they just didn't have her age group. We left Virginia Thunder for that reason. It was like this was great. She got an opportunity to play with these girls and this and that. Um, but I had talked to a couple of the organizations in Richmond, and so we decided to give a couple of them a shot. And one that stood out to us was Rocket. Greg Willis and I had spoken a couple times, and he was interested in Italy coming and playing. He wanted her to try out for the fifth grade team first. He felt like she needed to play for the Elevate Elite sixth grade team, and we said we'll go through whatever process you want to go through. Well, he invited us at first to come and play fall league with the seventh and eighth grade, with some seventh and eighth grade girls. Maybe yeah, maybe sixth and seventh grade girls at the time. Maybe there was some eighth graders. I'm not sure. But anyway, she went up to St. James in Northern Virginia and played in the fall league with Greg. Greg was coaching the team. Played with Greg several times. Um, and then when they had the tryout, she tried out for the fifth grade team. And actually, Tony, I think that might be the team that
yeah,
your daughter played for.
yeah, I remember.
And she had a solid tryout. I'll stay modest. She had a solid tryout, And that I think everybody kind of came to the consensus at that point that she needed to go play for the Elevate Elite team.
Oh, awesome.
And so she ended up with Elevate Elite 2030, and she's a 2031. She played for Elevate Elite 2030 that year.
Okay. So organization wise, how would you rate Rocket?
I thought they were super organized. Organized. They schedule was always posted. Communication was solid. We went where they said we were going to go. Almost down to when you walk into Rocket. Of course, they have their own facility. So when they practices were always there. Um, when you walk in, they even have that little screen when you walk in, and it tells you what court you're on and all of that. I mean, they were that organized. So I would say, as far as organization goes, A.
Okay. Skill development.
I that was one of the things that I felt like Italy didn't get, and I felt like playing against that level of player because that team was solid, man. The whole team, top to bottom, was solid. I think if that team had stayed together, uh, we'd be ranked. It would be a team that would give out a lot of bumps and bruises. Um, but so I think from playing against them in practice and whatnot, um, Italy developed because she was playing against girls that were as good, better, bigger, stronger. So I think that was solid there. But as far as the coaching and and being able to develop the players mentally and physically, I would probably say a D for that aspect. And I can't give it a higher grade just because she developed playing against better players. Because you know, if we're giving honest grades to parents and people looking for their kid to go play, they may not play with that level of group that Italy went to play with that year. It's very rare that you find a team put together that's that solid, that's bringing in new players. So I will say that based off of just the coach, based off of just what practices look like, based off learning the game, and then based off the mental aspect, I would say a D.
Okay. And price.
So Tony, I was hesitant on how I was going to approach this, and but I'm going to be honest, man. Um, so I had to pay for the uniform package, but I run tournaments. And so I was approached to say, hey, listen, let's work out a deal and you let us in tournaments for free.
Right.
Uh, we'll cut your cost.
Right.
And so I've never mentioned this before.
Right.
So this you're getting exclusive information right now. But I allowed many, 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 many Rocket and Elevate Elite teams to come and play for free in my tournaments that year,
Right.
to as a payoff for the cost that it was. But it
Right.
was,
Right.
and I for some reason honestly feel like I got a invoice that was much larger, and I don't know if it's because I had tournaments and they were like, hey, let's make it look like it's an even payoff or whatnot. But the amount per month plus the original payment and this and that, I mean, it was over $2,000, well over $2,000, I feel like. And so um, did we get what we paid for? I kind of feel like we did because I will say, but I never understood where the money, kind of where all that was going. I feel like the people at Rocket get paid
Right.
to coach and do what they do. Um, I don't know if that was necessarily explained to us with the fees and everything. Um, they played in several of our tournaments. You know, I allowed them to raise funds through our concession stand at Eastern Mennonite University to help raise more money. So I don't know. That was the financial situation with that team. I, I would say probably a C minus, just because I'm still confused at the budgeting. We played in great tournaments. I don't feel like we played in enough great ones or enough away from home or that weren't mine. Um, you know, to account for everybody paying the amount that I paid, or that I gave up because, like I said, I just paid for the uniform package, and then the rest was covered from giving free tournaments. But um, yeah, man, I'd say a C minus just because I'm still 2 years later confused about the budget.
Integrity, and we already covered the definition. Our definition of integrity is not just is a person a liar or not a liar. It's a big bundle of integrity, you know. And so, what's your grade on that one?
Well, I will say I'll touch on the lying piece, and I do feel like we were misled through that whole season. I'm not. We were told one thing at the beginning, and I'm not sure everybody was on the same page with that. When Greg coached, phenomenal experience. When Jess, and forgive me, I'm struggling with what her last name was. Um, McGinley maybe or whatnot. When she coached, phenomenal experience. When the next coach came along, and I'm going to spare the name, came along, the experience crashed. I mean, it became a mess at that point, and um, constantly, Greg was telling me different things. When I would go to him because he was the director at the time, and I'm not trying to throw Greg under the bus at all, but I went to the director with some concerns and whatnot. You know, you just because he was the kind of the one that put us in that situation. So I would go to him and be like, "Listen, man, this is not what you said. This is not how you described it. This and that." And I just felt like there was a lot of gift to gab that year. Changes are going to be made, changes are going to be made, never were made. And then at the end of that year, we got hit with a bombshell that Greg was stepping down and that coach was taking over as the director. And it was like, so um, integrity, I would say, um, just based off of that alone, because I felt like we were constantly being led on and given the gift of gab in that regard. And I know you said it's not just about being lied to and is this person. I would say a C minus, just for that.
Okay, and then culture.
So me and Mike have a different me and Mike have a different grade, I would say, for culture. Because I constantly just felt like egos, man. It was just ego after ego. Um, there were a lot of, it seemed like there was a lot of behind closed doors deals going on. We have an open meeting with all the parents to clear the air with the coach, and then the coach is like, "You call me after this is over with." What is the purpose of this meeting if we're having a meeting where everybody's being transparent and putting everything out there? What do you need that parent to call you after this meeting for? And I even said that. So at that point, we were fed up anyway, so it didn't matter what the retaliation would have been at that point. Um, but yeah, culture to me was probably a D. Um, you know, I, I just feel like it was a constant competition, and there was more animosity towards each other a lot of the times than it was, um, cheering for each other. I don't think, honestly, don't think, and I don't know if it was the girls as much as maybe their parents being in the ears. I did not feel like they wanted to see Italy do well, you
Wow.
know, and that was hard to go and you know, and I think they wanted one less person to have to compete with. And Italy did not have a long chain, a long leash. She had a very short leash, and if she messed up, she was gone. That coach yanked her. Killed confidence was the lowest I've ever seen with her in basketball. And I think that others were cool with that because it meant their kids got more playing time. But we did spend time together and we hung out and um, I remember, we went to Cincinnati, Ohio for AAU Worlds. Um, we all went downtown Cincinnati together and hung out and did this and that. you know, but I think seeing how things went after that season was over kind of showed that that was just it wasn't what we thought it was. It wasn't real.
Okay.
So the culture, what I say, but D. So culture D.
So VA Havoc organization.
Uh, D. Actually, you know what? Actually, you know what? F.
Okay. Skill development.
Well, let me at least explain the F for organization. I, I just never. I think, and listen, I'm gonna name names on this episode that I normally wouldn't do, and I'm gonna say it in a positive light, and that's the reason why I'm gonna name the names. Angelo Atkins and Daniel Stokes were the coach of this team, and I feel like they meant well. I feel like they had great ideas. I feel like what they wanted to do was solid. And I could respect the fact that they knew I had been in the game for a long time and they were willing to come to me and ask my advice or to accept when I had when I had something to say or something to offer them. And so I think that their organization that you give them another year or two, they'll be fine. Now I don't know from top to bottom. You know, I I feel like that was the number one complaint that a lot of people had when they were asking us where Italy was going to play. Ooh, you're going to go play for Havoc? Man, we've heard that they're not very organized and this and that. But I think they have some. I think they have some work to do. But I think that as far as at least that age group with Lowe and Daniel, that they're heading in the right direction, and I think both of them care enough to fix that problem.
Okay. All right. Skill development.
To me, that was what caught my attention. Now, I will say that there was a little bit of a breakup halfway through the season. Um, we had some other coaches that were involved and some other players or whatever, and I think that the skill development was a lot better with all of them when with all of those coaches there. Um, but when that little breakup happened in the middle of the season, some of the development went down. But I think it went down because we lost some players, and when you're running with seven in practice, 6 or 7 in practice, and sometimes not even six, because the commitment level there was not the greatest either across the board. But I would say that initially, Italy, from the months of, and we started with them probably in September, from the months of September to January, her her confidence, her mental aspect grew so much, and that I feel like she was just constantly developing. She was getting better. She was getting stronger. She was getting what she needed. So I will say that when that split happened in January and the breakup happened a little bit, I think that it went down a little bit from there. So I will say C plus, but it, if it would have kept going, on the rate that it was going up until January, that could have easily been an A plus.
Mm. Okay. Price.
Price was fair. Again, I will say that I did kind of sponsor this team. They went mainly to my tournaments until the season ended. Um, and I fronted some of the bill. And but this is not something. This was something that they didn't come and say, "Hey, let's work this out to cut the cost." I was still more than willing to pay the fees or whatever. I did this simply because it was providing opportunity, and I felt like that they were going to get a level of competition in my tournaments this year because they went to West Virginia, they went to Pennsylvania, so they didn't just play in Harrisonburg. Like they were actually, getting out and going to different tournaments in different areas that we hold. So, and they were playing against different levels of competition in all of these different places, and I felt like that was positive for them. So that's the main reason I stepped up and said I would do that. Also, the organization this goes back to the organization, the timeliness of getting money in and things like that with the commitment from the girls, the fundraisers, this and that. It just wasn't happening the way it should. And so I just stepped up there. So I put a lot of money into it, but I don't think that, for the regular person, for the average player on that team, I feel like the cost, what they get, what they got from the cost this year was amazing because, I don't think if they would have all just paid what they paid, they would have been able to go to Pennsylvania and been able to do West Virginia and do all of those. So they got a great deal this year. I think that's to be determined, just because it's a what is it um, uh, when you drop a class in college and you don't get a grade for it or whatever.
Oh yeah.
What's
Audit.
that?
We call it an audit.
Yeah, something we have to give it that because I can't really grade the cost because what I got, it was worth it to me, but I don't know if what was paid by the other people, they'll get what they got this year moving forward, unless they find somebody that, kind of sponsors them the way that we did.
Okay. And then integrity.
Yeah, I felt like they shot me straight for the most part. I mean, I know there were several times that they would be like, "There's new girls coming to try out." Our biggest problem was that we just couldn't. There were a couple girls on the team that probably shouldn't have been on the team, and they knew that they could get away with stuff because we didn't have that many players on the team. So they kept doing it, and the coaches were allowing them to get away with it because they were afraid that if they cut them, we wouldn't be able to replace them, and then we wouldn't have enough players to play, and this and that. We had five solid, and I kept saying, go with the five solid. I'd rather play with these five than have six and seven that, you know, are messing up the flow of things. But I will say the only time I ever felt like they weren't necessarily being straight up was when they were talking about who they were adding and that they had a ton of people reaching out about coming to play for the team and this and that. And they may have been telling the truth. I've been there before where people have told me they're going to come to a tryout or a workout and they didn't show up. Um, you know, but we just never could get over that hump. So, but I felt like they were straightforward. I felt like, the integrity was there from an organization, from a program standpoint. The integrity of the team as a whole, not so much, but from the program standpoint, you know, we got what they said we were going to get.
Okay. And culture.
Not very good, just because you had the two coaches, one of the coaches' girlfriends, which wife, they're engaged. So one of the coaches' wives, and me and my wife.
Wow.
The end.
Wow.
We
Wow.
didn't. None of the other. We hardly ever saw any other parents at any of the games, any of the practices. We would transport them. They would transport them. Well, I'll say one other parent, one other mom came. Mike's daughter's mom.
Okay.
She would come a lot too, but they balanced those three kids, man. I don't know how they do it sometimes, playing on different teams or whatnot. So we helped out a lot with their daughter as well, but that was it, man. And so there wasn't we didn't have to worry about, like, when you're talking about culture and being able to fit in and be family with the other parents and stuff. We didn't see the other parents. We didn't even we distant relatives, I guess you could say, with them because we never really saw them and didn't interact with them much. Um, you know, but I would say that also affected the culture because the girls you know weren't always respectful and weren't always didn't always show gratitude and were appreciative of the opportunities and the experience and whatnot, and there weren't any parents to help enforce that. you know
Right.
so um So I would say another, with the culture, maybe probably a D minus, just because there's so much potential there, man. I don't want to feel like I know I'm giving a lot of bad grades to VA Havoc, but um, there's so much potential there to be better, and I think that the two coaches in place, those guys, and a lot of people don't like Daniel because he's one of those coaches that's in your face and he yells and he'll say some curse words and things like that. But Lowe is kind of the one that reels them back in, and it's kind of like, big brother or whatnot, dad, big brother, and kind of put his arm around him and butter him back up or whatnot. But it was a great mix. Everything was there until it wasn't, man, and it just I don't want to make it seem like I'm bashing that
No.
organization because we're not walking away from that organization because of anything any hard feelings or any ill will. Uh, just we just hope that organization lasts with those two coaches because those two coaches they genuinely care about the girls and I just hope that it ends up working out for them.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give mine because I don't want chicken out because you was very brave. Amen. So we started off with Courtney in the fourth grade or third grade with no, third grade. We started with Courtney in the third grade with MKW. And let me go here. Organization, MKW. I'll give them an A minus. They was already always organized, always squared away. You always knew where you were going, and they never were left us holding the bag. Skill development. At least our experience with MKW, we were there 6 weeks. The coaches there looked like they were going to develop and work on skills, and they spent a lot of time, especially because it was smaller kids. I would give them an A minus or B plus on skill development. Price, thought they were fair price wise. B plus, A minus. But when I left, they could have given me a little bit of a prorated refund, and I don't. They didn't do that. But integrity, though, I will say this: they almost, because of daddy-daughter ball, they almost took Courtney out of the game. And they really were. At least when I was there, the 6 to 7 weeks we were there, they were shameless when it came to daddy-daughter ball. So I would give them an F when it comes to integrity because at least for some of the teams there, it's based upon who your kid is, and it's based around this kid or that kid. Instead of it, some of the kids there don't know that they're NPCs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when you play Mario, my family plays Mario Kart, and there's like these digital players that aren't really players, and then they're just in the game, and they're not really there. Well, there are folks who are MKW that they don't know that they're an NPC, that they're just kind of there for the daughter of this person or whatever. So I'll give them an F in that one area. Culture, I'll give them a D because my wife told me that, and she's had some concerns about that. Is like, how can you be named after an African American basketball player, professional player, and then the culture kind of doesn't reflect the player that's the name on the marquee, So, so that's just something to think about. But I will say, A, I didn't trounce them. Organization, A. Skill development, A minus, B plus. Price, B plus, A minus. Is just the daddy-daughter ball, and then the culture. We never like. I'll say this: when I expressed my problem, there was no one checked on us, or no one. They was almost glad that we were gone. So, and I never did anything to get in any trouble. We didn't do anything to get in any trouble. I never said anything negative or anything. It's just I complained what I saw, and then next thing you know, it was like, good, be gone, because we didn't want your daughter competing with our daughters anyway. So, so that was my grade there. So then we went from there to Rocket. Now, for the listeners here, me and Dave are not disagreeing. We just had two separate like Rocket is such a big organization that you deal with it regarding the coaches that you were dealing with. You see what I'm saying? And I can say this: Courtney's Rocket experience was a little different than Nadia's Rocket experience. Uh, so I'm going to do Courtney's separate. Courtney's Rocket experience was that fifth grade team. Organization, I give them a B because there was some confusion here and there. No. I'll give them a C plus because there was some things that happened that it just was not there was not communicated, and it could have been done a whole lot better. A coach allegedly did something, and the way it was handled was not handled well. So I'll give them a C for Courtney's experience. Organization for Nadia's experience, I'll give them an A. Skill development for both of them because we were younger and we had, with the people that we were working with the coaches that we were working with, I'll give them a solid B. Price, I'll give Rocket a B. We didn't feel like we were being robbed, or we didn't feel like it was, exorbitant. Integrity. Court experience. Okay, so there was no sportsmanship problems. Courtney's experience, there was not a fair play problem, and there was no disrespect for players, opponents, and officials, and there was no, in Rocket at least, there was no daddy-daughter ball in Courtney's experience at Rocket exclusively. So then I'll give them a B as well for Rocket, and then Nadia's, no problems at all there. I'll give them an A. Nadia's had a better experience at Rocket than Courtney did. And then culture, this is a tough one. All right. They might hear this one. That's all right. Culture, I'm going to let it out. I've been holding it back. Culture, Courtney's experience, Courtney had this expression because there was what she called the carpool kids. And Rocket has an enclave where there's middle class folk like myself that are there, and then there is a short pump element, I guess you could say, to Rocket. You know what I'm saying? And there were some carpool kids there where, there were times where our family felt like we were second class citizens, or we were treated like second class citizens. You know what I'm saying? So we had that experience at Courtney's Rocket experience. Nadia's had a different experience. We were having, and I'm sorry, my buddy, if he hears this, I love him, and Nadia's still part of this team, and we're moving forward with this team. We're probably going to move forward with this team, but I'm not. And this was a little, I don't know. I'll say this. I'm going to be open with it. If he listens all the way to the end, he can hear it. All right, but. Nadia's current team, we have church at 9:00 to 10:15 every Sunday, all the way up in Woodbridge, and they are doing skills and development. And they're working, even though they're not competing this summer, they're working out all summer long. And I'm not gonna lie, it did hurt our family a little bit because they knew that Nadia's a church girl, and they picked it during that time, and she didn't give any nod, like there was no consideration, no anything. So there was just almost, Nadia does feel hurt, and we do feel, we just the fact that there was no consideration on moving that around a little bit, because then, and I'll say this, I know AAU, my family, I've had to shift around. For those who don't know, I'm a pastor, and I don't like putting that out there because people have their expectations on what a pastor is supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. And everyone got a different expectation depending on what their pastor was when they were a kid, And so I don't like to put that out because there's different expectations upon different people. And but I'll say this is, there's a difference between an occasional tournament that you have to miss on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And when you schedule regular practices on Sunday mornings at the exact same time that people go to church for an entire summer.
Yep.
It's like it sends a state because you know, like if your kid is a worshiper, they have to choose. You're forcing them every summer, every Sunday, all throughout the summer, whether you're going to go to church or whether you're going to do basketball. And I don't think that's a fair choice. You know what I'm saying? And
Agreed.
I know that there's other religion. You know, I'm not trying to make a big deal. And I love that coach. You know, but I'll be honest. Even though I love that coach and Nadia loves that team, I'm kind of forcing Nadia to look at other teams because of that decision. You know, and he can hear it. He can hear it. My wife might make me delete this, but you know, he can hear it. But so that's our Rocket experience. And then I'll be honest. I got a brother I love very much. He started an organization called Yay. Yay, he knows this. Organization wise, I'll give it an F. He has a heart of gold, but then we just had a lot of organizational issues that I've mentioned before. Skill development, I'll give him a B plus because he will. No, I'll give him an A because he would bring in people and he would bring in this wonderful trainer named Hargett. He would have Hargett go and work with the kids, and then also he and his coach George would work with the kids. So I'll give them an A for skill development. Price, I'll give them an A. Matter of fact, they have the best prices of everyone out. Integrity, though, you got to separate the experience I had and then the reason why I left. The leaders that I dealt with at Yay regarding sportsmanship, fair play, and respect for players, opponents, and officials, and then no daddy-daughter ball, I'll give them an A for the experience I had. However, I will say this: they were bringing some new people on that I know that had some problems in that area, and they were bringing some people on. So that's one of the reasons why I left. So I'll just say that. So just like Coach Fowler said, every organization is not a static situation. Like these things are dynamic; they change. But from my experience, the two coaches that coached my children at Yay, sportsmanship was great, fair play, respect for officials and opponents and officials, and there was no daddy-daughter ball. So I'll give them an A when it comes to that. But then one of the reasons why I left Yay is because they have someone that has a different perspective on leadership than those two coaches that I dealt with, and that's why I had to break out. And then finally, culture. For the time that we were at Yay, at least our group and our experience, I'll give them an A. So, you know what? That's weird. I did not think I would give Yay, if I broke it down into different groups, I didn't think I would give you, my wife's going to kill me for giving Yay that many high grades. But I can honestly say I left Yay because of the organization being an F, and it was a big F. And then, but the other elements, they were good. And also, I left Yay because of the integrity issue. I could see that there was going to be a change in the leadership that they had there, and I had to leave. So, but I'm surprised that I did. And then the hard one. Hopefully, I don't get Courtney in trouble here, but Courtney's now playing for the Fairfax Stars organization. I can give them a solid A. Skill development, solid A. Price, solid A. Integrity, especially those coaches there, a solid A. Culture, though, I'll be honest. Culture, I'll give it a D because I don't know whether it's because we're not from Fairfax or I don't know what it is, but sometimes we didn't really feel, not by the coaches, but I'm talking about coaches don't control everything of culture. Sometimes, families can kind of control. Sometimes we didn't really feel like we were welcomed. And sometimes because I am passionate about basketball, I'll say this. If you're a passionate parent, and as long as you're not talking negative about somebody else's kid, and you're passionate about your kid, people should not, especially in a basketball environment, they should not treat you like you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh,
this is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about my daughters because, I'll be straight up. In the I grew up, I was born in 73. So guess what? My parents, I love my mom and dad, but they ain't put all this into me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't put all this into me. You know what I mean? Like they didn't get the investment that I'm invested into Courtney and Nadia. So yeah, I'm fully invested. And sometimes, especially I will say this, that certain parents, they kind of look at you like you're strange or you're crazy just because you're traveling an hour and 30 minutes to go to a practice. They look at me like I've got a horn sticking out of my head, and that kind of made us feel a little uncomfortable. So that's the only thing. And the coaches can't do anything about that. But culture wise, we did feel like we were a little ostracized sometimes.
yeah.
So that's the maybe that'll change as time goes on and we go through. So those are my honest assessments, and my wife's probably gonna fuss at me for some of those grades because she has a different experience, or she has a different viewpoint. But hey, we try to be straight shooters with you all. Hopefully, this will come off way more honest than a Google review, and hopefully, as you hear our testimonies and experiences. Hopefully, for the listener, this did not come off as just a B and a wine session. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, this came off as constructive thoughts so that when people hear about our experiences, then they kind of have a better understanding of what to expect. And they won't just, because I will say this: you don't want to quit a team when it's unnecessary, and because sometimes you can go and quit a team and then you go to the next team and there's the exact same thing. So maybe these reviews can help kids or help parents understand what it is as a whole. What are you dealing with the culture that's out there? What are your thoughts, Coach Fowler?
I agree, man. And again, I started the show like this, and I'll end it you can't take somebody's word as as the sole way to judge these organizations. Um, I think, like I said, in a couple episodes or next episode, whatever, we're gonna get the directors on here and let them give their piece or whatnot. But you can't take, me and Mike Turner. We're on here, and we kind of gave different grades for one of the teams because his experience was different than mine. And if you heard his experience, you would think it was super. I would have thought it was super great. But if you hear my experience, the next person might think it wasn't so great. So, I say take it, go and with caution and with what you've heard and form your own opinion because our experiences aren't everybody's experiences. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I would be with it is just form your own opinion, but take this as a way because I will say that some of the teams that we have been a part of we were told some things ahead of time, and some of those things I'm like I look back now and I'm like man I should have listened, and other things I'm like man what were they talking about? So yeah, so you never can make a full judgment just based off of this right here, but we do feel like this could save some people a lot of time, at least if they start seeing signs of some of this constructive feedback, or if they see some of the positives and they feel the same way.
Amen. Another thing, just as you was thinking it, I mean, as you was speaking, it made me think just as a thought, and I want to share this with the parents. Uh, with the exception of that first team that Italy played for, most of these other teams of your daughter and my daughter, and also the parents that we listen to today, most of the teams, they got 3 or 4 strong points, and then they just have one Achilles heel.
Yeah, yeah,
So most of the organizations, if they would just fix that one Achilles heel, they could probably turn around the whole organization. You know what I'm saying? Like most of them got bad, like from everything wasn't bad. There was just one element that needed to be worked on. So hopefully these folks will hear this and they will think, they will take it in a positive way and they won't take it in a negative way. So, but
Absolutely.
you never know. Well, thank you, Coach Fowler, for your time. And we definitely probably will get some phone calls out of this one. But
Hey, we'll see. We'll
I hear
see.
you, brother. I hear you, man. Well, hey, you have a great one. I hope you feel better, brother. And look forward to our next one.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, now. Y'all take care.